Hello and welcome to 2020 Donald Trump versus Richard Ojeda. So this is one of the first early candidates that said that they are going to run for the Democratic primary for the 2020 presidential election. He is from the state of West Virginia. He ran for one of the House districts that was a little bit closer than the other two, and he got around 40% of the vote, but that's very good because Trump did win that area by around 40%. So it showed a slight shift there by around 10 to 15%, but it shows that he did do really well for a Democrat in West Virginia, that Trump won very well. So we're going to start out with the solid states. For the Republicans: Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, except that one seat, Kansas, Oklahoma, Utah, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, South Carolina, Alaska, and this is a really hard one for West Virginia. It's like really in between solid and likely. But Trump did win this by around, he got like 68% of the vote, so I don't think there's going to be that much huge of a shift because of the more conservative northern half. So I think that Trump would nearly hold then the solid area around a 16-17% instead of his 35% from the last election. We're going to move into the Democratic solid states. California, D.C. is not a state, but Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Maryland, New York, Vermont, that one seat in Maine, Oregon, Washington, Illinois, Hawaii. We are going to move into the safe, likely, leaning in toss-up. For the likely Republican states, it would be the state of Texas. Even though it did show shifts in 2018 in the midterm election, it's really hard to tell because Beto O'Rourke was a very popular candidate in Texas. He was really good at getting out the vote there, and he really was appealing more to the Hispanic voters there, and I don't think Richard Ojeda would do as well in that category. So I think Texas would stay around a 7 to 8% for Donald Trump. Moving to the states that are likely for Ojeda is New Mexico. New Mexico has been more Democratic than it has been. It's been moving more and more closer to a solid Democratic state. And Colorado, I could say also is... Oh, I put that... Yeah. Colorado, I could see going likely or lean. I'm going to say likely because of the shift in 2018. But it's really hard to tell because in 2010 with Obama, he lost way more seats than Trump. And he still won the election with a decent 5 million vote margin compared to Romney. So I think that Colorado could really be in between likely and lean, but I'm going to put it in the likely column for Ojeda. Now moving to the state of Georgia. Georgia I could also see as a likely state because Richard Ojeda is not as good as appealing to those minority voters. He's better with the white working class and more the Midwest voters instead of the Southern. So now we have Ojeda with 197 to Trump's 179. We're going to move now to the state of Iowa. Iowa had a huge shift in 2018, but a lot of the candidates there, it's hard to explain. It was very interesting there. For two flips, I thought it was going to be one flip, but it wasn't. And it stayed in the governor ship for the Republicans, but I didn't think it was. So I could still see this actually going in the leaning column, not the likely. I could see this around a 3 to 4% win for Donald Trump instead of his last time 9% win, because of Richard Ojeda's more appeal to the Midwest. And we're going to move now to the state of Ohio. Ohio, I could also see in the leaning column, or even, no, actually I would say this would more be in the likely column, even though Iowa, which went more Republican than Ohio did in 2016, Ohio did very well for the Republicans. They kept all their seats in the House, they kept their governorship, and that goes to show in a midterm that a swing state not changing for the opposite party is really bad for them in the next election. So I could say Ohio could go around a 7% win for Donald Trump. Now he leads by 6 electoral votes. We're going to move into the state of Virginia. Virginia, this could also go into the likely column for them. I forgot to actually characterize that. It's had 3 flips in the House, and they kept their senator there is a Democrat around a 16, I think it's 16%, 17%, but that's really good because Tim Kaine and Hillary Clinton won that state by just over 5%. They barely got into the likely column. At times it was really close, but then the Northern Virginia vote got them over the line. So I could say this actually can move to around a 7%. I don't think it could go over because of the white working class in some of the regions he could very well appeal to. And a lot of them are shifting from Republican to Democrat in the state of Virginia. We're going to move into the state of North Carolina. North Carolina, I could really see possibly a likely or leaning, really. Likely because so far they've kept all their seats. There's one left, but it looks like it's going to go to them. And it's just stayed really well for the Republicans. There was, I think, 2 or 3 swing districts, and the Republicans won all of the seats there. The Democrats held their seats, showing there was like no change. So usually it goes more towards the opposite parties, and then in the general election it's going to show more positivity for the Republicans there. So I'm going to actually characterize that into the likely column barely by like 5.2%, 5.3% area. Trump won that around a 4.2, I think, percent in 2016. So a 1 to 2% shift more to the Republicans, I could see. Donald Trump now has 218 electoral votes to 210 for Ojeda. We're going to move into the state of New Hampshire. I could see Ojeda holding on to this very easily by around a 2 to 3% before it was around 0.5% in 2016. And because he has that appeal, I think he could really move more people towards the Democrats there. He is more, I would say, between a liberal and a moderate, so he can appeal to more of those independent voters than Hillary Clinton did, because she was very, very liberal, and she was basically a very one-sided candidate. Well, Trump is too, but at a time he was actually a Democrat, and he was basically a populist. He did really well in a lot of these Rust Belt states, and Ojeda's also a populist. He voted for Trump, so I think he could move some voters more to the Democratic Party, and this would be a very hard-fought battle. We're going to move into the Maine 2nd Congressional District. I think Trump could hold this by around a 2 to 3%. Last election, he won this around an 8%, but in 2018, it looks like it's going to go back into the recall because the Republican is now leading there. So I think that Trump could lead, nearly hang on to this. Ojeda would appeal more to the southern bit of Maine and probably some of those conservative southern areas here. So I think he could actually win the Maine at large by a likely margin instead of a leaning in 2016. So now we have 216 to 219, very, very close race. We're going to move into the state of Minnesota. Minnesota would stay in the lean column for the Democrats. There was it stayed the same in composition, but Trump did lose this state too, so I could see a slight shift to the Republicans, but then because of Ojeda, I could see him more appealing to these kinds of voters here. So I could see around a 3% win to 2.5 to 3% win. So now Ojeda leads with 226 to 219. We're going to move into Nevada's 2nd Congressional District. I could see Richard Ojeda actually picking this seat up. There's a lot of those voters are very independent, and it's more of a liberal than conservative region in Nevada, so it could be close at times. Like in 2018, the Republicans held it by 2.5%, but it was a huge shift from 2016 by around a 8% to 2.5% shift, and now I could see this around 1% to Ojeda. So now there's one flipped towards the Democrats. We're going to move into the state of Arizona, and I think that Trump could hold on to this decently well because of him not being able to appeal to those Hispanic voters and minority voters in Arizona. So I could see Trump actually expanding to around a 3 to 4%, even though it's showing more Democratic trends. So now Trump's now leading 230 to 227. We're going to move into the state of Nevada. Nevada is, I could see, going to the Democrats very narrowly. It's going to be hard for him to get the minority voters out here, but I think he'll get enough out to barely edge it out by 0.5%. Excuse me. We're going to move into the state of Florida. The Republicans did very well there in the Senate and the governorship races, holding on to both of them. Well, holding on to the governor's seat and flipping the Senate seat, but also losing 2 seats in the House. So I could say it's showing more towards Trump because Ron DeSantis was basically running as a Trump candidate against Andrew Gillum, which was, well, Bernie candidate, more socialist, liberal area. So I could say even though Ojeda isn't a socialist liberal, he's a Democrat, and even oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the Democratic senator's name there. I just lost my train of thought. He was more a Ojeda like, but not populist. He was more liberal moderate. So it shows he nearly lost, but a flip in a midterm election for the Republicans is very good there. So now Trump is 11 electoral votes away, and Ojeda needs to pick up, I think, all of these states here in the Midwest. So the first one I could actually see him picking up is Michigan. Because of GM closing some of the plants down, I think that can affect Trump. And especially if Ojeda's running, he's going to say that Trump isn't saving your jobs, and he's basically going to run it on how Trump didn't do what he said he was going to do. And I think he could actually sway some of those Michigan voters that were working in those GM plants towards the Democrats. and also get some of those angry people that did lose their jobs in the past to go towards the Democrats. But I think Trump could stay most on his base there, and it would be very, very close. Just like 2016, where Trump won it by 0.3%. I could see him actually, Ojeda, winning this by even less. Probably by 0.2%, 0.1%. It'd be very, very close. This is a very hard decision. So now Ojeda's flipped so 17 electoral votes he's flipped. Another state I think he could do very good in is Pennsylvania. But Trump did win this by 50,000 votes. This is a very hard decision to say which one it would go to. So we're actually going to move to Wisconsin. Wisconsin, I could see actually staying for Trump. Wisconsin's, all their House districts stayed for the Republicans, but the governorship flipped. And I think he could do very well here again. Even though it really depends on the candidate. Even Ojeda would do really good here, but I could see Trump holding on to the space, especially because how good they did in 2018, even though they lost the governorship. So now Trump needs to win Pennsylvania, and if Ojeda does, it goes to the House of Representatives, and that's currently controlled by the Democrats, so that would elect him. Most likely, yeah, I think it would elect him. In 2018, all the areas that flipped, Hillary Clinton had controlled in the election. But there was one area, I think it's Pennsylvania's 1st district, where the Republican actually got more votes than Trump there, and the Democrat got less than Clinton. That's where a lot of those steel areas were at here, and there was a couple plants that closed, and now a lot of couple steel mills have been opening up all around. I think there's like one in Illinois, Indiana, South Carolina, Texas. I think one in Pennsylvania that have opened up. There's probably more, but a lot of them are coming back, and Pennsylvania was really wanting that. And the coal miners. The coal miners really wanted the coal miners to come back in Pennsylvania and West Virginia. So far, I think it was like 8,000 were brought back, or 8 to 10,000 were brought back. And I think that Pennsylvania could stay for Trump. And this would be a very interesting election. I don't think Ojeda would make it through the primaries because he did vote for Trump, and a lot of the Democrats are going to run on that. And he's known, but he's not super well known around nationwide. He's more known around this general area and the Midwest and a little bit of the East Coast area. I think that Trump could hold on to this very, very narrowly. It'd be a very hard fought battle. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the video.